Hey, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy Boulanger, man, and we're just in here talking about the AFC North. This offseason for the AFC North, guys and gals, has become sort of an arms race. And I don't think the collection of weaponry has stopped just yet. It is Saturday, June 14th. I believe there will be a little more activity coming our way over the next couple of weeks and maybe right before training camp. I think all the teams have hold on, let me see if I can get this microphone moved a little bit closer before we really get into conversation. All right. And I think all the teams at the AFC North have done a fairly good job adding to their roster from free agency to the draft and then even post the draft. And of course, we understand that the Baltimore Ravens sit at the top of the North and have so for 2 years. And there is a great expectation that we could repeat as the AFC North champs. And I think that's always the first goal of any season is to win your division, which guarantees you a top four seed and then advance in the playoffs. And so today, man, we're going to talk strictly about the AFC North and who's kind of winning the arm race, who is elite competition in the AFC North, who should the Ravens be worried about, and how everybody stacks up against everybody else. So let's get into it, man. So the order of the AFC North from last season goes Ravens at the top, followed by Pittsburgh, then Cincinnati, and then Cleveland. And in truth, man, just because the Cleveland Browns ended in the fourth spot in the AFC North does not mean that they were not a competitive team. It does not mean that they were not a good team. They just didn't have all the pieces to their puzzle in order to compete at the highest level. And although they didn't have all the pieces to their puzzle, guess what? They still took one game off of the Baltimore Ravens when they were led by Jameis Winston. And at this point, man, the Cleveland Browns have a four quarterback competition. I believe that quarterback competition shakes up like this. It's Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Shador Sanders, and then the third round pick. I believe his name is Daniel Gabriels or Gabriel Daniels. No disrespect to him. I just don't remember the context of his name. Nevertheless, I don't know if all four of these guys are on the roster when the season starts. I don't see how they can carry four quarterbacks, but that's not my business. I do believe at this point in time, Joe Flacco is the leader, and I do believe, barring any type of unforeseen injury, I think Joe Flacco will indeed be the starter day one. I think he gives the Cleveland Browns the best chance to compete. He still has a big arm. He still can throw it deep. And in truth, the Cleveland Browns fans can get behind Joe Flacco. He's a savvy veteran, he's a leader, and he's a good locker room guy. And so I think that the Cleveland Browns will go with Joe Flacco as the starter. And I think that at some point between now and mid-season, Shador Sanders moves into that second spot, right? I think that in all truth, if Cleveland could be honest with themselves, I think they could admit and would admit that their hand may have been, excuse me, their hand may have been forced to draft Shador Sanders. Um, of course, he probably should have been picked well before then, but he was on the board. They were on the clock, and they need a quarterback of the future, and I think he is it. In fact, in an article that I read pretty recent about the Cleveland Browns and Shador Sanders specifically, he had been praised very highly for his work ethic, which is something that has never been a question, right? Whether it was when he was at, I believe it's Jackson State, or even when he was in Colorado, nobody ever really questioned his work ethic. Maybe his bravado was too much. Maybe his pride was too much. but nobody ever really questioned his work ethic. And so I think the future of Cleveland at the quarterback position, if Shador Sanders is going to be what was advertised, I think their quarterback worries are going to be over. And I think sitting behind Joe Flacco for one season while he learns the game, catches up with the speed of the game, I think it will serve him well and at some point serve Cleveland well. And yeah, I did say they have four quarterbacks. They actually have five with Deshaun Watson. But I think that at some point soon he'll be put on the street. I'm sure he's going to be on IR the entire season. Don't know if they're going to be able to recoup any of that money that they're going to pay him. I mean, because he's been consistently hurt. But nevertheless, he's a non-factor in Cleveland going forward. And so I think that when you look at Cleveland, I don't remember the draft. I do not remember what they picked up and what they lost, but I do remember them having a solid draft, filling in some holes, filling in some depth, and I think they're going to have a nice young squad. Not in 2025, but in 2026, I think Cleveland will be ready to compete for the AFC North. Now, they will be competitive this season, if nothing more than because that defense is going to be elite, I believe, especially with the pieces they added along the defensive front. But I do think Cleveland will make a little bit of noise. I think they're going to be a probably 8-9 win 8 or 9 wins this season. They could even creep up to 10, depending on how many they take off of the AFC North. I think they're going to sneak up on some teams because I think they're going to play tough like they always do. And so, man, I think that although Cleveland didn't add any major pieces this offseason, I think they added quality depth and they're going to be ready to go in one season. And when I say ready to go, I'm saying they're probably going to be in competition for the AFC North crown. Let's go. Oh, what's going on, Jeremiah? I hadn't heard that, but that's that's pretty amazing that he is throwing and he'll be getting all his money. But you know what's crazy? Concerning that Deshaun Watson thing, man. Uh, Shout out to Deshaun Watson for getting the deal, right? I mean, I haven't seen anybody, no matter the league, MLB, NBA, uh, or even, of course, NFL, who has gotten that level of compensation for literally doing nothing. I know the dude can't help that he's been injured. That's kind of been his history, even back from college. But man, all it took was a good college run, win the national championship, getting that getting that getting that top round draft pick, and he's done nothing more than cash checks, man. So shout out to Deshaun Watson for getting money, for sure. Yeah, Jeremiah, I hear you. I definitely hear you when it comes to crown versus competitive. When I say crown, I'm talking about the crown in 2026. Um, and I'll speak to that as well since we're already talking about it. When I say they could be able to compete for the crown, Cleveland is going to be somewhere near good to great defensively. And we've seen good to great defenses be able to carry a team. And, s- and so I think all they're going to need, I think all that Cleveland's offense is going to need to do is run the ball with some consistency and then capitalize with the play action. And I think they'll be in most games. I don't see Cleveland getting blown out. In fact, if I can remember, I don't really see Cleveland getting blown out at any point, um, over the last couple of seasons without a starting level quarterback or a franchise level quarterback in place. So, like I said, 2026, I think their level of competition will raise, and I think they will compete for the crown. Let's jump and talk about, man, the Pittsburgh Steelers, although that's out of order of how we went from how we finished the season last year. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, and we haven't broached this subject here on the GM. We haven't broached this subject here on the GM just yet, but the Pittsburgh Steelers did pick up the veteran, the 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famer for sure. But I do not know how much he elevates their offense versus just makes their offense consistent, right? I think he's not really an upgrade per se over Russell Wilson. Uh, but I definitely don't think he's a downgrade. I think it's a lateral move. I know I read an article where Pittsburgh said that Aaron Rodgers was not their first choice, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because why didn't you get your first choice or why didn't you get your second choice? If Aaron Rodgers wasn't at the top of the Pittsburgh list, then where is the other quarterback that they were supposed to get? You can't tell me that it was Mason Rudolph, nor can you tell me that going through 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds of the draft that you couldn't find more than your third option. So to tell me or to make that story believable that Aaron Rodgers was not the top choice for the Pittsburgh Steelers does not make a lot of sense based upon what we actually saw them do this offseason. They really kind of sat still and just waited on Aaron Rodgers, which is what we saw the same thing happen a couple of different times with the Jets. Nevertheless, what does Aaron Rodgers do for the Pittsburgh Steelers? I think it's just a lateral move. I think the Pittsburgh offense is going to be better than last year. But I don't primarily think it's because of Aaron Rodgers. I just think it's going to be because they're going to have a better offensive line. This offensive line at this point, specifically the major parts at tackle and guard, this is going to be their third year together with this rebuilding project that they've had at the offensive line. So I think just based on offensive line play, they're going to be better. I know that they drafted a running back. Did they draft Caleb Johnson? I believe it's who they drafted. Solid back. Think he's going to be able to do some things if that's who they drafted. I cannot remember, but I know Jaylen Warren is going to be the starter. So I think that they're going to I think that they're going to be a run first team. And then I think that they're going to definitely try to stretch the field and throw it deep with the addition of DK Metcalf. Now, let me tell you the truth, right? Now, you guys have heard my story about how long my history goes back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It literally goes back to about the age of 12. I'm 46. I'm 46 at this point, and so we're talking about 34 years. Now, I was never a Pittsburgh fan. It was crazy because my whole family, my dad, his sisters and brothers, my aunts and uncles, my grandmother, they were all Pittsburgh Steelers fans. And the crazy thing was, no matter who they rooted for, I always seemed to go the opposite direction. And so when the Baltimore Ravens came into play, I didn't select the Baltimore Ravens as my team simply because they were in the division with Pittsburgh and rivals. I actually became a Baltimore Ravens fan because I was first a Ray Lewis fan because I was a Miami Hurricanes fan. Long story. Nevertheless, so I've had to keep up with Pittsburgh and what they were and were not doing, just so when we gather as a family, we had commentary to talk about, right? And so as I've been watching Pittsburgh for the last for the last couple of seasons, Pittsburgh has not had a franchise level quarterback, and I still do not think Aaron Rodgers is a franchise level quarterback. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers missed the boat this draft. I think that I don't know what the deal. I don't know what the deal was with. I don't know what the deal was with Shedeur Sanders. I know that him and Tomlin met. They seem to have hit it off, and so I think they missed the boat on that. I think that they missed the boat on Jackson Dart. I think they missed the boat on Shoke. And so They did not get a franchise level quarterback in this draft. So I guess they'll be looking next year to pick up another quarterback, unless, one of the other veterans shake loose at a younger age and they sign him. I thought that the Pittsburgh Steelers should have kept Justin Fields, gave him an opportunity to see what he can do, especially with Jalen Warren in the backfield. And I think they drafted Caleb Johnson, like I said earlier. I think that they could have utilized Justin Fields and his running ability to kind of power that offense. So I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, in all honesty, this is no criticism because of the rival. It's just really what I think. I think they missed the mark this offseason in a couple of areas, quarterback and also running back. And so I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers actually are going to right. Right. Absolutely, Jeremiah. It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same way. My dad is that way. Um, he's still a big time Steelers fan, and I'm gonna go up to where he lives, and we're gonna watch the game together this year. But I don't hear as much bravado coming from that side since the departure, or actually the decline of Ben Roethlisberger. But But again, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, as it pertains to having Aaron Rodgers, I think that they're going to be super competitive as always, because I think that their defense is going to be better this season. Kind of the same. Right, Jeremiah. You're right. They are second best for a long time. I do agree with that for sure. And so I think Pittsburgh will be better this season as a team because I think their defense is going to be better. I think with the pickup of Darius Slay to lock up the other side of the field opposite Joey Porter was a great pickup. They signed a safety. Was it? I can't remember. They signed a young safety who's going to one Thornhill, I think, is who they signed. So he's going to be solid. He's going to add solid depth. Of course, they still have Fitzpatrick. They still have Deshaun Elliott. So I think their back end is going to be good. I think they're going to be more stable this season at the linebacker position. And I think their defensive front, if TJ Watt is 100%, is going to be very good. And also with the addition of Derek Harmon. So I think that their defense is going to be a tick better than last year, and I think their offense is going to be more effective than last year. And so I do see them being in competition. I do agree with you. I do agree with you, Jeremiah, that they will compete with Cincinnati for sure. Let's jump to Cincinnati. I think the Bengals, man, have definitely showed their hand, which I think is okay. I think when you know who you are and you have an agenda that you want to hit, I think that you just do it, right? I think you just go ahead and do it and just be done with it. And I think that the Cincinnati Bengals, led by the campaign of Joe Burrow, went all in offensively. Hey, if that's your mentality and if that's what you want to do, then do it. If you believe in that, do it. And I think it showed well. I think it showed well for them on their Super Bowl run. And I think it showed well for them last year when they just, put the ball up. And I believe it was Joe Burrow who led the league in passing. I expect Joe Burrow to do the same thing this year, barring any type of injury. The Cincinnati Bengals, of course, as we all know, as AFC Northers, they have been trying to rebuild that offensive line since Joe Burrow got there. They finally have bookend tackles with Mims and Orlando Brown. They put some solid pieces in the interior. I don't know what it's all going to look like when it all comes together, but I know they have put forth the effort. And then, of course, they pushed all the money into the table for Jamar Chase and then T. Higgins. So their money is spent. They have been, of course, in some type of contract dispute, if we can call it that, or trade dispute with Trey Hendrickson. I think he does get moved at some point. Um, may not be for much, but I think they cannot go into training camp with that type of distraction unless they decide to write him a check. Because in the NFL, just like most sports leagues, money kind of mends fences, right? And so I think something will happen with Trey Hendrickson, and that will be resolved again, whether that's a trade or whether that is a contract extension. I think something gets done. I don't think they carry that into training camp, but if they do, hey, that's on them. I do think the Bengals will be super, super competitive. Everything you saw this offseason from them is they wanted to add some young talent to the defense, which I have an appreciation for, because young talent, barring any type of injury, should be um, able to develop and get better. And I think the defense that they're trying to build will be better in 26, but I think they're going to lean heavily on the offense in 2025, as they should. I think that this division, man, at the top, Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, I think is going to be super, super competitive. And to be honest, right, should the Baltimore Ravens win this division? Yeah, I think we should. I think we should three-peat it as division winners. But I think anything can happen, right? And we'll talk about some of that. Anything can happen when we get done talking about the Baltimore Ravens, which is where we'll go right now. So, as Ravens fans, we've all followed them um, this whole entire uh, season or off season. Um, and so, what I think is the Baltimore Ravens have had one of the best off seasons I've seen in some time. And I'm talking about from early signings, Ronnie Stanley, DeAndre Hopkins, bringing back Tylan Wallace, picking up Homo as a linebacker vet, special teams ace, those type of signings. And then we go into the draft, and then we, of course, we signed Noteboom, who I think is a sneaky good signing. And then we get into the draft. And we picked up Malachi Starks to solidify the safety spot beside Hamilton for the next decade. We got an explosive edge rusher, something we have not really had. We've had some good edge rushers, but I think Mike Green is going to be a different type of animal for the Baltimore Ravens, especially if he's healthy or stays healthy, rather. Emory Jones, who is hurt, who's probably going to end up on IR because I don't think he's going to be ready to. I don't think Emory Jones is going to be. Jeremiah, I think you're right. I think he is on another level right now. I think that everything you know specifically, Jeremiah, that I've been hard on EDC, but I've always given credit when credit was due, and I think that his credit is due for the job he's done this offseason. And so when you think about the draft, third round pick, Emory Jones, young offensive talent. He's probably going to be better slotted as a guard, but he's hurt. I think he ends up on IR. So guard is still going to be a concern. When you look at the fourth round pick, Teddy Buchanan, is going to be immediate competition. And I do stress immediate competition for Trenton Simpson. I think Trenton Simpson has a lot of talent. I don't know what his struggle was about last season, but I do think Buchanan is going to push him, especially the late last week. No. This week's OTA reports where He showed some good things, that being Buchanan, some good things in practice. I think he's going to push Trenton Simpson this season to get onto the field. And then you got Vincent, who we did not hear anything about, but it's really hard. Excuse me. But it's really hard to hear about offensive linemen because, you really don't get a lot of work until you get the pads on. But then I think we heard a lot about LeJounte Wester. We heard a lot about what's that other guy's name? Heard a lot about Tyler Loop. And here's what's crazy, right? The UDFA kicker has been pushing Loop. When you look at the reports coming out of OTA practices, you see, and I can't remember his name, but you see him in some aspects having a more effective kicking day than Tyler Loop. So I don't think Tyler Loop is necessarily a lock because the UDFA guy is really pushing him. And so, man, and then Awuzie, back to free agency, to replace Brandon Stevens, I think is an upgrade. And so I think that we've done what we needed to do to solidify some things. I think adding Jenkins as a Michael Pierce replacement is a lateral move. I don't necessarily think it's an upgrade nor a downgrade. I think it's a lateral move. And I think he'll be able to come in and be effective in what we need him to do. And so I think if this is an arms race, I think if nothing else, the Baltimore Ravens have maintained their lead. Because when you look at the other teams, if we can revisit them, if we look at the other teams and you go with the Steelers, right? They just went lateral at the quarterback position. They did not upgrade the quarterback position. I don't think that. When you look at how Russell Wilson played last year in comparison to Aaron Rodgers, how he played last year, it's lateral. It's a lateral move. And Russell Wilson was able to do some things with his mobility or his remaining mobility that Aaron Rodgers will not be able to do at 41 years of age, right? So, and then another thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers where I think they dropped the ball, and I mean this. If they were going to go with Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position, now, again, highlight, if he was not their first option, then that means their first and second option kind of fell through. They should not have traded away George Pickens without being sure of who the quarterback was going to be. And even if they knew that they were going to get Aaron Rodgers, they should have kept Pickens. That makes that offense more explosive. And then Aaron Rodgers could kind of then looks more like a let's go win now piece versus just a guy who's going to bridge the gap. I do not think this offense is better passing wise, changing out George Pickens for DK Metcalf. Let me be clear. Am I saying George Pickens is equal to Metcalf in ability and production? No. One guy is approaching 30 who has a long league history of credibility of being productive. George Pickens is a productive guy. He is explosive. He is George Pickens is explosive, and I think they should have partnered those two dudes together, especially when you still don't have that franchise guy at quarterback. And so I think the Pittsburgh Steelers offense will be just as good, but less explosive offensively as it pertains to passing the ball down the field. And so defensively, I think they'll be better. So I think Pittsburgh puts the same exact level of team holistically on the field again this year. And I think they'll still compete for the second spot. Again, anything can happen in a season. We understand that. But I think Pittsburgh is going to be competing for a second spot. When we fall down to Jeremiah, when you say Pickens is crazy, do you mean crazy like mental health, or do you mean crazy like Or do you mean crazy like his athletic ability crazy? Which crazy do you mean? Excuse me. And so when you think about uh, Cincinnati, excuse me, I think that defensively they're going to be the same iteration of what they were last year. Maybe a tick better, maybe. But I think that they still have a lot of holes that they did not fill, and they're going to rely on super young talent to fill those things. Now, you can have some rookies that jump off the page and do some things you don't expect, but I think in Cincinnati, they're still going to struggle defensively. But they do have the offense to put up the points. And I think that's what they're going to have to do, which may be their MO in the first place. Let's just score points. Gotcha. Yeah, Jeremiah. Let me jump to you. I do see, as a mental health clinician, I do see some behavioral things that does say he does have some unwellness. I will, excuse me, I will agree with that for sure. But here's the crazy part, right? If he is unwell, why didn't Pittsburgh? I'm not saying they didn't, but it doesn't look like Pittsburgh helped him in that department as much as they should have. But nevertheless, let's jump back to Cincinnati. And so I think that maybe Cincinnati's MO is to just throw the ball all over the field, run the ball, and put up a lot of points. And if their defense can hold teams here and there, they're going to win some games. So I think Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are going to be competing for that second spot. And then Cleveland, I think Joe Flacco is going to be an upgrade over Jameis Winston. If nothing more than just, excuse me, if nothing more than just being an upgrade in consistency, I think he is an upgrade. And then I think their back end depth at the quarterback position, I think is going to be better. They're definitely going to have a change at running back, which they already had that because Nick Chubb missed a lot of last season. And I think Nick Chubb just signed with the Houston Texans. So I think that'll be a really crazy duo out there, especially if Chubb is healthy with him and Mixon. But we'll talk about the rest of the AFC earlier next week. And so, man, I just think Cleveland will still pull up the rear. Because I think we have still put ourselves at the lead of this arms race. Now, our job as a Baltimore Ravens team is to stay out of our own way. Okay, that's going to be our issue. Can we stay out of our own way? That's our issue. Last year, when we look at what derailed us, right? It was us. Now, am I saying we beat ourselves? No. I don't even believe in that methodology, because if I turn the ball over, if I fumble it, if I throw an interception, that's just another 10. A turnover is the capitalization of my mistake, right? Because if I fumble it, if I fumble it, then I have an opportunity to recover it. If another team recovers it, then that's them capitalizing on what I've done wrong. So I don't believe in that mentality that a team actually beats themselves. Could you shoot yourself in the foot? Sure you can. Sure you can do that. But when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens, I think this team is talented, right? I think that although we don't know what the 53-man roster is going to look like, we know that it's going to be loaded. I do think we have some questions that will only get answered in training camp. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I think that offensively, all 22, and when I say all 22, I'm talking about the 11 starters and the 11 guys right behind them, solid. Jump to the defense. I think all 20. I'm only saying 20. I think the 11 starters and then most of the guys behind them are credible and valid players. And so I think that we have the best complete roster in the AFC North. So we have the talent. We have to be able to stay out of our own way. And that's discipline, 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 discipline. Because without discipline, there is no consistency. Without consistency, we're going to continue to trip ourselves up. When you look at the games we lost, and for those who catch this in the record on Thursday nights, probably like 7:30, 8 o'clock, one of those times, we're going to be doing what I call Thursday night football, where we're going to be revisiting games from last season. We'll have some film, we'll have some discussion, and they won't all be losses, they won't all be wins, but we're going to look at some 17 games from last season as a way to kind of have some content filler. Because man, it's getting ready to be that time of the season where ain't nothing to talk about, right? There won't be any signings, nobody's going to be active, there won't be any injuries. And so it'll just be, oh, did you see Lamar throwing with Rosé and Bate down in Florida or something like that? But other than that, it's not going to be anything to talk about. So we're going to be doing a Thursday night football. We will be still live every Saturday at some point. And so we got a lot of things that we're going to be trying to do this summer. Once we hit 1,000, we're going to have a name change, shameless plug. So super excited about that. And so got those things coming up for you guys. So let's get into the questions and then we'll close. The questions about the Baltimore Ravens right now. If we were to put together a 53-man roster, I believe we absolutely could. Okay. There's no question. We have 53 guys who can make this roster. We've been hearing a little bit of UDFA noise, man, of guys who showed some things over the last couple of weeks in the practices. But we know that that's shorts and t-shirts. So everybody looks good for the most part in shorts and t-shirts, right? But if we looking at the roster, even if we could field a 53-man roster, left guard is still a question. I understand Voorhees is the tentative starter, but who's behind him, right? Is anybody going to push him? If you guys are still concerned about Daniel Faalele, I'm less concerned about Daniel Faalele than I've ever been. And I'll tell you why. Daniel Faalele he's not going to shrink from 6'8". He's not going to shrink much less than 350. It's just not going to happen. So he's going to be a big dude and he's naturally powerful. But the thing about Faalele, you've heard me say this before, he's a 19-game starter from last season, plus playoff experience of those 19 games. And the caveat is he's in a contract year. And we know how dudes do when it's time to get paid. In truth, somebody's going to pay him. Somebody's going to pay him because if he's healthy this season, he'll be a 36-game starter at a minimum. And again, he's still 6'8", 350 plus pounds. Somebody's going to pay him, even if it's not us. And so he has something to play for, even more than pride and camaraderie, right? And so I'm less worried about him and what he does at that right guard position this season. But left guard is still a question, the left guard starter and the left guard depth. Okay. Also, the depth at tackle. I know we got Noteboom. I know we drafted Vincent. But is that going to be enough? Hopefully, no injuries. It will be. So that's a question. I think with the signing of Jenkins, it answered the nose tackle position. And then the only other questions defensively for, as it pertains to this team is who's going to be beside Roquan Smith? Is it Trent Simpson? Is it Buchanan? Or is it some veteran that they pick up? And then now with the injuries surfacing at the safety position, who's going to be behind Malachi Starks? And so those are the questions. But right now, I believe in what we can do. I believe that the Baltimore Ravens are easily a 12-win team. I say only 12 wins as if that's a low number, but I say 12 wins simply because of that high-level schedule that we have to play. So listen, man, that's what I got for you guys today, man. Let me know what you want me to know. Appreciate you guys. Do me a favor, hit subscribe, hit the like. I'm your guy Boulanger, and until Monday, we're out.